Hey, I wanted to just make a video trying to express, put into words, help me integrate something that I'm learning and thinking about right now that keeps on coming up sometimes, and I want to help myself keep remembering it. So um, basically, it is remembering that there are transitional activities in between. This is a part of me learning my executive functioning, like how to improve it, how to work with myself, right? There are transitional activities that allow me to flow with the mood that I'm currently in. There are harm reductive activities that actually allow me to feel more myself, more like it's safe to freely express. It is safe to like follow my curiosity, just affirming like, oh, like I'm just living without having to like analyze and put myself on a schedule like manually, like trying to force myself with willpower to stick to a really strict schedule and set of expectations um with like how I use my time, uh but instead being like noticing for myself, like if I feel kind of spacey, or I notice my mind is really stuck on a track of thought, or I just feel tired, or whatever it might be. Um, yes, sometimes things like, for example, if I am stuck on an emotional train of thought it's like a problem I'm trying to solve. Yes, sometimes sitting down, doing CBT, focusing on it can help. Other times, I think it's always good to have other tools in the toolkit to experiment with, um, because I'm just kind of wary of having too much of a default mode that I gravitate towards at all times. I want to stay more in that, like, how am I feeling, experiment kind of state of mind. Some of these transitional activities, just like ways to use my time in a way that is loving to me and prevents me from, you know, catastrophizing or exhausting my brain too much, trying to like have things be perfect. One of these things is creativity. And I'm realizing now like the beauty of creativity as a transitional activity. And by that, I mean just kind of like if I am not quite feeling right, I don't know what to do, like something to focus on that feels like I'm concentrating, it feels like it makes sense. It creates some moments for me in which my mind makes sense. I'm just doing things. It's not super meta, you know? Um, I'm not like constantly analyzing myself and being like, am I doing everything correctly in all these steps? Some of these things is creativity. And sometimes creativity for me, it can be writing, or creativity can be cooking, it can be cleaning, it can be painting, it can be stretching, yoga, whatever it might be, any creative use of my energy. But sometimes I need something that is just like weird, that it kind of, it's like allowing parts of, for me to remember, like, it's okay for me to just like do things that I normally might judge as being too strange, or it's stigmatized, and something something that was for me today was so okay, this is what I'm about to share. This today, I had, today's been a busy day, good but busy, and with challenges, and I needed some moments to transition out of that logical mind, that like problem solving in my real life kind of mind, and just into like a play, like, I wonder kind of mind. And I was thinking, like, with a spiral, the shape of a spiral, that is really good at representing a learning process, because you're continually remembering, you're kind of coming back to that same place and remembering. Oh, you can't see my finger. You're kind of coming back to that same place, that same perspective in your mind of remembering. And as you keep on going, the frequency with which you remember, it becomes a lot more rapid. Like those cycles become smaller, you remember more often, until you're just the point in the very middle, which is like it's just fully integrated into you, which is a part of you. I was thinking of that, and then I was thinking like, well, what comes after that? And after that is, I was imagining like the shape of a spiral. If you had it, like if it was a slinky, like a metal slinky or something, like what would it look like if you looked at it from the side? I was curious, like what would that pattern be? Slinkies aren't spirals, so that's not a good example, but just something like metal coils. And I tried Googling it and I couldn't find anything that like fit that imagery, because I was just curious, like what does that shape look like when you're looking at a spiral from the side? And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to use what I have to figure it out myself. So I took a piece of paper, not remembering that paper is like really pliable and flimsy, flexible, malleable. It doesn't really like hold its position like metal would. I think I have chapstick stuck on my lip. I just felt something. Sometimes I get these, I have Burt's Bees. Sometimes I feel like I get these chunks of the Burt's Bees stuck on me. So anyway, I cut out a piece of paper. This is funny, but I cut out a piece of paper into a spiral, and then I tried to look at it on its side, and I was just like, oh my god, it's so flimsy. Like I can't see any shape. And then I realized that that this, like, when you take a regular piece of paper and then you do this to it, you cut it into a spiral, I just realized how long it reminded me of intestines too, But I just realized like how long this thing is. I can't really do it too well with one hand. But like if I were to just stretch all this out, and if this part was more flexible and it was easier to keep it untangled, like, I don't know, it just surprised me to see how long this thing was. Like compared to a piece of paper, it was just more material than I imagined for some reason. And then that made me think, back to the spirals, it made me think, oh, maybe it is good I use this piece of paper instead of assuming I had to have a piece of metal. But maybe, once I do learn something and I integrate it into me, I'm continually practicing remembering something, that pattern, that spiral pattern. And I'm integrating it into myself, remembering until it's just like kind of a constant, something that is always in my orbit. That learning process, it then becomes like raw material or something that you can, it's just like this long piece of fabric. Say I had different materials here and it was like fabric, something that is a little bit more pliable, then I would be able to use that for things. I don't know what. That's where my mind kind of stopped on this track. But I think that is the point for me to remember, that when I'm learning, when I'm in these learning cycles, the point is not for me to like master a spiral and I'm just a spiral and that is like the end all be all. I have to maintain my spiral shape and keep on trying to hyper perfect, hyper fine tune, like when I become a point, like in the middle of the spiral, like trying to like microscopically fine tune. And it's like, okay, well, actually, you already completed the spiral. You're at that dot point in the center. The spiral is done. And now it is material that now that I have this integrated into me, I can use it for another purpose that I desire. Like, what are my desires? I have this thing I learned, mastered, integrated into me. What is my desire that I can put it towards? And it just reminded me that, everything that I'm doing, all of the learning, I'm so grateful to myself for it. And so grateful to all the people who are like reminding me of such necessary things and giving me situations in which to practice reminding myself. Reminding myself to be present and breathe and relate to my own thought process and my inner communication and my outer communication in different ways than the past. All of this is in order to support my desires, and it just reminded me of how crucial it is to remember that our own individual desires are at the heart of everything that we do. It is the reason, the purpose for what we do. Without being in touch with our desires, which you can only know by listening to your emotional feedback, the feedback of your body, of your mind, only through knowing ourselves more are we able to know our desires. And when we know our desires, that's how we can understand, like feel like it's comprehensible, understandable to us, that we can like double check, like, yes, I'm playing the right role to this person because these are my boundaries and these are my desires. I'm playing the right role to this other person because these are my boundaries and these are my desires. And I don't know, just realizing that doing things that make us feel happy, supported, safe, loved, healthy, more capable of doing those like bigger picture, grounded, real world desires that we have. That is the whole point of us being alive. Our whole point isn't just to be like, well, I am conforming to other people's desires, and so it allows me to stay safe. And then meanwhile ignoring all the pain that we experience internally. And I know there are a lot more dimensions to this because it depends on what specific context you're in. In other contexts, it might make more sense to say, like, my brain's tired, so I can't really think. But, another context, a different metaphor, a different approach, saying, like, use CBT, use your mind to see your emotional distortions and trying to take more responsibility to change the thoughts and feelings you're having. That factors in there somewhere. I don't know exactly how or in what context, but right now I'm just trying to share this metaphor that's on my mind right now that is useful in some contexts and some moments in time, to like lovingly reassure ourselves, like, we're doing good. And remembering that, everything that I've been doing now, this cutting up, thinking about this spiral, cutting up the paper, laying it out, having these reflections, and now explaining it through this video, this has been a use of my creativity in order to get my mind focused on something and not be obsessing or just feeling confused. And anyway, I don't know exactly what to think of it, but hopefully in the future, looking back, I'm able to be like, oh yeah, that is what part of the process it served. I think I'm trying to remember that it's okay for me to just act sometimes without needing to like think of the analysis I will have like 5 months in the future, or even 5 minutes from now, when my mind and perspective might change and I might have a different outlook than I did from this current present moment. Anyway, take care. Bye.